this whole topic of meditation is truly a voluminous topic. There's almost no end to the study and no end to the ways you can approach it. You can talk about meditation in 10,000 different ways, and all of those ways are correct. So that's how big a subject it is. So also, whatever questions you have, ask, because it's a small group today, so it's really good, nice. Ask all the questions, because the questions won't be answered in books, and you have to have someone who's done a lot of practice to be able to answer the questions in such a way that they're accurate now and they'll lead to intelligent questions later. See? So it's like a stair step, because each one should lead to another body of thoughts, and then another body of questions, and then another body of answers, so that you have a thorough, systematic understanding of what you're doing. The problems, people get into a lot of problems where they think they're meditating, but they're basing their practice on misperceptions, and there's nobody to ask. And it's not only nobody to ask, you have to ask someone who has substantive practice, not just someone who's practicing. The problem I see is many people leave their teachers too soon. So there's gaps in their education, and that inevitably means you're going to fall into a ditch. It's just a matter of time. So there's the process of meditation, and then there's the process that leads to meditation, and then there's another subject of sort of the human psychodynamics. What are you trying to process in meditation? What are you actually trying to do, and what facilities are you using, and what assumptions are you basing your actions on? If you have 20 different assumptions, but those assumptions haven't been analyzed to make sure that those are accurate assumptions, and then you start working on an assumption, aren't you wasting your time? Because you're studying a red herring, thinking that assumption is a valid theorem or process. So you have to really go back and look at everything. You have to look at your tools that you're using and the assumptions you're basing your actions on in meditation. See? No one told you that before. So if we want to look at our assumptions, which is really important, we have to look at the nature of our minds. What's going on there? What are the dynamics of it? What are the levels of activity that are going on, conscious and unconscious? Like if I say to you, who do you think you are? You have a strain of ideas, a group of ideas of the person you are. That's just the common body of understanding of who you are. But if we went a little bit further down, those are the assumptions we commonly entertain, and we sort of say, I like thinking of myself that way, so I'm going to reinforce that. Or I'm unhappy about this thing, but because you think it's real, you're going to reinforce that also. Then if I ask you the question, how many frustrations have you had in life? Or how many times, and you think, that's got to be in the millions, Or you ask the question, hey Dom, how many times have I had a sense of fear in my life? Well, again, that's got to be in the millions. How many frustrations have I had? It's, again, millions. What we have to realize is the very fact that we can say, oh, I have all of these frustrations, or I've had all of these hurts, you know, or all of these loves, that's like a micro program running in your subconscious. It's turned on, but it's on idle. See? It's at one point when someone poked you and you were irritated by it, whether they poked you physically or emotionally, intellectually, you were irritated by it. At that moment, it was conscious, and you were holding it in your consciousness, in your awareness. But after a day or two, you calm down. But what happens is the irritation is still there, but it simply floats down to the subconscious level. But that program is still running. It's just running in idle. So we have to realize that our subconscious psychic composition is full of trillions of feelings and thoughts and micro programs that are all still running. Because they're still running, aren't they still affecting you? Absolutely. It's the body of information that's being constantly fed to you, but you're unaware, but you are responding to it. See? Just like if I take a vitamin tablet, I'm not aware of the tablet once I swallow it. But is it not functioning in my system? Isn't the whole metabolism of my body still functioning based on that, working on that? You know, utilizing it, distributing it, you know, changing the nature of my health? Absolutely. So we have to realize that we have an infinite amount of tiny programs running all the time that is part of your unconscious disposition that affects your conscious disposition, but you're not aware of it. It's subconscious. So we have to realize, oh my God, there's all this stuff going on, you know. But you have to be aware of it before you can address it. If you're not aware of it, how do you really address it? You don't. So in this process of meditation, so now you realize you've got your conscious norms of how you think and feel about yourself. That's one thing. And then you have your unconscious functionality of infinite amount of micro programs running and affecting you, affecting your disposition, affecting your health, affecting your future. This is affecting everything. So those are two sets of phenomena that are going on. In the process of meditation, you have this level of conscious awareness, a spectrum of conscious awareness. Then you've got this vast spectrum of unconscious functionality. In the process of awareness, you have this level of conscious awareness. Over time, that conscious awareness gets larger, the spectrum gets, the band gets broader and broader and broader. So it means the stuff of the subconscious starts to become conscious. See? Now, why do people stop their meditation or say, I don't want to deal with this anymore? It's because all of a sudden, as the spectrum or as the bandwidth of their consciousness increases, they start to become aware of all of these sub-programs that have been going on that may not be too pretty or may not be too comfortable. And like any human creature or any creature in life, you want to move away from discomfort and move towards comfort. So you start blocking all of this stuff. But it's like blocking a disease process. Just because you deny that the disease, you say it's not there, you're not helping yourself. The key is to become aware and then find an appropriate treatment. But most people, when they start their meditation, they only stay in a very narrow bandwidth because they don't want to deal with all the sub-programs that are going on, all the frustrations, all the irritations, all the disappointments that they have. They don't want to deal with it. Consequently, they stay this level, and they don't go any further. Even though I've been sitting for 15 years, I've been sitting for 20 years, but because they don't want to deal with the discomforts, they have a very narrow bandwidth. They say, this is how I want to see myself, this is how I want to feel about myself, this is what I'm going to, this is me. It's not me. It's just a perspective of me. See, it's not. They're not seeing their full or broader constitution. And in the meditation practice, you not only have to be honest, you have to be radically honest in order to make progress. I mean, you don't have to blurt out everything that's going on in you, or your past history, strengths and failings. Not necessary. But you do have to radically see things for what they are. This was a good decision, this was not a good decision. This was a positive action, this was not a positive action. This was productive, this was non-productive. You just have to be radically honest. There's no need to get down on yourself. Not at all. But you have to see things as they are. Recognize this was productive, this was non-productive. See it as it is. Now, one way of looking at meditation is that there's two profound processes that you have to absolutely embrace. There's no wiggle room in this. There's no wiggle room at all. Either you do it or you don't. One process is profound awareness. Just see what is. Don't judge it, just see what is. The other major process is profound or radical acceptance. See? You just have to be able to sit, be aware, and accept. I'm not saying endorse. I'm saying simply accept what you experience. You have to be able to allow things to be and accept this sort of subconscious history. There's no endorsement, this or that, but you can't suppress it. See? If you suppress it, there's no healing. The healing comes from allowing all of these micro subconscious processes to arise and then to resolve. The reason they're all sitting in your subconscious is that you just pushed it away because it was discomforting, and you never resolved it. You never allowed yourself to come to peace with all of these micro incidences, micro events, or micro programs that are running in idle. And then what happens is you're living your life, and you come across a circumstance, and all of a sudden you go into a rage. You say, gee, that's not who I am. Why did I go into a rage when that person said such and such? It's based on that hidden micro unconscious program that was running. A few moments prior to that conversation, you were just fine. But your rage came because there was a seed of anger that was unresolved, and that person just pricked that memory. See? They just pricked that subconscious program that was running, and it made it go into full overdrive. And it rose up, and it came out of your mouth. See? It made your head hot. Yes?
How do you resolve seeds of anger during meditation?
That's the key. This is where it's uncomfortable but necessary. How do you resolve seeds of anger? In the process of meditation, you have to acquire a completely non-judgmental perception, where you allow, and you have to look at everything, whether it's anger or frustration, whatever it is. You have to allow it to arise. You have to see, the problem is that we identify with it. We identify with that anger or that hurt. by doing that, we are sort of pumping more fuel into it. Every thought, every feeling, every phenomena has only so much charge. It has only so much energy in it. You know, each feeling has a different gradation of energy. We have to allow it to arise. This is a two-part answer because it's actually a long answer. We have to allow it to arise and learn the process of being non-responsive to it, to being aware of it, but not tied in. We don't want the ball to keep rolling. We want it to arise, and then just by being completely present and holding on to a sense of peace and awareness, that anger or that frustration will start to slowly dissolve. It'll break apart by itself. We're the ones who kept it alive. We're the ones who kept feeding it because we never allowed it to arise and fully resolve. It arose and then we stuffed it down. The moment we stuffed it down, we didn't allow it to fulfill its cycle of arising and falling apart, coming up, manifesting, and falling apart. We stopped the process. See? We allowed it to be created, to arise, and then we stuffed it down. If we had allowed it to arise and maintained a sense of awareness and internal peace, it would have broken apart by itself. Okay, now this is just one part of the answer because this is a little bit complex. One of the reasons why anger and frustrations also are maintained is because we don't have a clear understanding of who and what we are. We have a manufactured understanding of who and what we are. It's by what we thought, what we feel, what our parents taught us, what our society taught us, what our religion taught us. And we sort of cobble together a notion of who we are. But it's not really a functional notion. Well, let's say it's a functional notion, but not a realistic notion. It's not really who we are. It's just a set of assumptions that we package together and they say, I am Hari. It's a package of assumptions. Now, in the process of meditation, you are in the process of deconstructing what you think you are. And you're in the process of re-identifying with other conditions within your being. So each person has a name, and they identify with that name, and they identify with the history that they attach to that name. That's just a strand of your beingness, as where we think that that's 100% of who we are. So we function thinking that that's who we are. But that's just a little tiny strand, a notion of who we are. In the process of meditation, you practice prayer, you practice mantra, then you finally practice meditation, where you have to learn to release, you have to learn to rest, actually physically and psychologically rest in a state of peace, where that becomes what you hold on to, that becomes what you identify, that becomes slowly the new meanness, me, as opposed to each of us with our names and histories. So as you learn to simply make the word peace or silence part of your psychic disposition and part of your self-identity, as you do that, you now have a new reference point as to who you are and how you function. See? Prior to your study of meditation or any of these sacred practices, your reference point was always the package you attached to yourself. My name is so-and-so, my history is such and such. So everything you dealt with was dealt with based on that. That was your primal reference point. In meditation, what we have to do is shift your reference point. See? Which is a little bit difficult. Because a lot of times we're very attached to what we think we are and who we think we are and what our histories are. See, there's an inherent attachment to it. Sometimes a positive attachment, sometimes a negative attachment, but there's definitely an attachment. See? Now if we shift the reference point to is, I'm no longer Sally, I'm no longer Jill, I'm no longer Tommy, and shift your reference point to, I am aware, I am being, beingness, and I am peace. In the process of meditation, if you're shifting your attention and your identification to awareness, to beingness, to profound peace, this is slowly becoming your new disposition and your new psychic personality. You become what you practice. You become what you practice. I am Hari, I am Hari, I am Hari. So that notion of Hariness is there. What if I realize, wait a minute, when I was a baby, was I Hari? I don't think so. That Hari was a bunch of information put together that I simply embraced. Everyone called me Hari, so I said it must be so. Not necessarily correct. What the heck is Hari? If Hari walks down the street and gets hit by a truck, all of a sudden there's a new Hari, a new experience, a new identity put to that Hari. So was the old Hari, if the future Hari is so volatile, what about the present Hari and the past Hari? It's all very volatile. It's all radically changeable. So if all of that stuff, that identity is radically changeable, why are we putting so much, 100% of our energy into saying it's so? See? It's not so. It's momentarily so. Now, we have to say, okay, if all of my sense of identity is truly volatile, what's not volatile? What's not changeable? See? That becomes the great spiritual search. What is truly stable? See? The great yogis and rishis of the past, the great saints of the past, said silence is stable. Silence doesn't mean nothing. Silence just means silence. There's a lot of tremendous dynamism in silence. But because we're habituated to radical action all the time, physiological, psychological, that's our habit. And all of our psychic energy has gone into the nature of activity and movement, that we've given almost 0% of our psychic attention to the nature of silence. So it's an unexamined vista, see, as opposed to the world of action is completely embraced, and embraced by everybody. But it's not the whole package. See, when you look into this yoga science, you examine everything. You examine every assumption to see what is so, what is not so, what is functionally so, see? What has just a utilitarian value, but is not really necessarily so, see? So, when you're doing this practice of meditation, there's a shifting of beingness. When you started out, you said, this is who I am. You signed the sheet and said, okay, my name is Sally. And you were 100%, this is who I am. Maybe not so. Maybe you're having a Sally moment. See, in meditation, you have to figure it like this. If you look at a torrent river flowing, and all kinds of bubbles and all kinds of swirls and all kinds of debris are being flushed down this, super river, that's how the nature of our mind is inside. We are habituated to watching all of the activity. That's what draws our attention. And there's all of this psychic material just rushing by. And if we can capture any thought or anything, then we rush off into a whole thought process, which is again more activity. It's just stirring the pot more. We're not really analyzing. We're sort of capturing images or capturing micro programs that are going by, and then we're doing a whole psychic embellishment of remembrance, misremembrance, enhancements, re-referencing. All of that's what's going on in our mind. Okay? So that river is going by, but what was holding? But you never asked the question: what held the river? That river has boundaries. The mind does have boundaries. What held that? See, there's something more subtle. We're caught up in the dynamism, but we're not trained to look for the subtle. See, what allowed that river to be? What holds that river? What allows it to be? It's in a cup. See, it's in a frame, but it's a super subtle frame. See, that super subtle frame is absolute spacious silence. Absolute spacious silence. Now, in the process of meditation, you've got this rushing river full of all these micro impulses, an infinite amount of micro impulses or micro programs running. And we have to acquire a sense of radical acceptance, not endorsement, just acceptance. Acceptance that it is. That it is. Because if you don't accept that it is, it means it becomes more subconscious. Meaning it didn't go away. It just meant you denied it. You are in denial. It's not so, it's not so, it's not so. And you function as if it's not so. So you push it away. Doesn't mean it went away. It just meant it went more subconscious, deeper into the subconscious. But it's still affecting you. So in this process of meditation, you want everything to be able to arise and resolve. The reason it's still there is because it never resolved. See? You never allowed it to fulfill its full rotation of manifestation. Things will manifest, things will sustain, and things will resolve. See? They will dissolve. See? That's a normal rotation of energy. Of constantly changing states. Nothing stays forever. No manifest thing stays forever. But if you interrupt the process, you prolong its middle phase of staying. See? No thought, no feeling, no idea is forever. There are some phenomena that are forever. So when you're sitting in deep meditation, there's profound awareness and simple, profound acceptance of what is going on. There's no more suppression, no more putting it away, no more I'll deal with it later. You simply have to be present with whatever arises. See? All of these infinite psychological bubbles and programs that are hidden inside of you simply have to be allowed. You have to take the lid off. You have to allow them to arise, be present, and resolve. Without you saying anything about it, without you thinking anything about it, without you feeling anything about it. You simply have to be present. See? The moment you say something, think something, do something, comment, you've just fed it energy. You just embraced it. You've just taken some of your psychic energy and poured into it to keep it energy rotating. See? You have to allow it simply to be. You have to allow yourself to be simply present and let it go. Simply let it go. See? But you have to start to learn that habit of vairagya, of non-attachment, of allowing things to be.